Hello everyone, welcome to Bali Music Journey station on the YouTube. I just wanted to make a video that I've never done before. I've never done a voiceover. I've always done interpretive musical interpretations of flat earth theory combined with various sources or mirrors that I thought were well done or entertaining that might help other people who are considering the issue of whether the world is a globe. I came to the conclusion about over 2 years ago that it's not a globe, and came across, I think, Matt Boylan first, and then he had an entertaining video where he did photo or picture, photo or painting, and he had a slideshow with a bunch of people in a room where he was giving a seminar and putting up different shots on his overhead projector. It was really funny. He was smoking a cigarette and drinking a beer, I think, and still very cognizant of what he was talking about. Obviously a brilliant guy. Artistic, eccentric fellow. I really enjoyed watching. Then I came across, because I didn't fully understand what he was talking about, although I already did not believe in the moon landing, I came across Eric Whidbey. I think I read most of his proofs of the flat, that the Earth is not a globe, whatever, the 200 Earth proofs that Earth was not a globe. And then a couple other of his videos, and then Flat Earth Clues was about the same time by Mark Sargent, which I watched all the way through. It was well done production. And I was living in Bali for the last several years, but I also grew up on the north end of Whidbey Island. But it just so happens that 3 days ago I came across this article, which was published about the time I was flying to Bali, and didn't know that there had been any such article. Even though I have met Mark twice now since I come from this island. I hail from North Whidbey. He's from South Whidbey, about an hour away. This is a pretty long island. But I met him because of the video he put up about the Seattle Flat Earth first meetup last year, which I attended, and met him briefly there, and then I met him in Oak Harbor again on the north end, where he was at an event called Holland Happening, which is a parade that everybody goes to about the Dutch heritage of this town. Other than that, we've exchanged a couple emails and phone calls, but he doesn't know I'm putting this video out. I thought this would help others who are questioning what is the real identity or background of Mark Sargent. This article is from the South Whidbey Record on August 21st, 2017. It's called Flat Earth From Skeptic to Believer by Justin Burnett. I'll have the link in the description below. South Whidbey grad Mark Sargent has been known for many things. Once it was for homemade fireworks. Another time he was the digital pinball champion of the world. Today he is a leading figure of the Flat Earth movement. That's right, he believes the world is flat. He's made a career out of the belief and has been quite successful at it too. Sargent has his own weekly radio show. He is a published author. His YouTube page, which includes over 20 Clues videos, has nearly 40,000 subscribers and a whopping 8.4 million views. He's been interviewed by journalists and producers more than 100 times in the past 2 years, including a recent front page feature in the Denver Post. This weekend, A Los Angeles documentary television crew is traveling to South Whidbey to meet Sargent and then fly him down to Oregon for live coverage of the eclipse. The word you're likely to searching for is what? Another common one is really? According to Sargent's mother and Freeland resident Patty Sargent, at least that's what her closest friends said when she told them about her son's newfound success as a conspiracy theorist. As for the man himself, I absolutely believe the world is flat, he said. Sargent, 49, says it with religious fervor and the knowing smile of a person who has seen the truth and must, with patience, reveal it to others. He knows it because he can't disprove it and because it feels right. But let's get to that in a moment. First, the answers to the questions everyone is asking. Yes, he really believes the Earth is a disk. People don't fall off because they run into Antarctica. It's not a continent at the South Pole, but borders the known world like a fence. The public doesn't investigate or fly over it because they can't. It's all part of the Antarctic Treaty of 1959, an agreement strictly enforced by the highest levels of government. They're in on it. NASA is fake, and so are its images of space and the cosmos. Man has never been to the moon, because it doesn't exist as we know it. Neither does the sun or any of the other planets. Boiled down, at the heart of this theory, Sargent believes mankind is living in an enclosure, kept by who and for what reason, by whom and for what reason. Now that's the big question. I don't know, he says, breaking eye contact with a record reporter and in an unusual moment revealing uncertainty. Are we kittens, something to be protected, or scorpions that need watching, he wonders. All he knows is the world is a stage, and we're all, most of us anyway, just unknowing actors. If this sounds familiar, it's because you've watched the 1998 film The Truman Show. It's the story of a man who became enlightened when he learns his entire life has been lived inside a massive dome, which is nothing but a Hollywood set with him, the star. Sargent's theory about the realities of Earth are overwhelmingly similar to the plot, as are themes taken from other films. Movies and media have and continue to be a major influence in his life. He mentioned more than half a dozen titles over the course of a 2-hour interview with the Record. For example, most flat earthers never talk about their beliefs because the first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Flat Club. Flat Club is you don't talk about Flat Club, a modified line from another 90s cult classic, Fight Club. When he realized the truth 2 years ago, he described it as his Jerry Maguire moment. But movies are not the only rudder that guided Sargent to where he is today, a journey that took him from a job as a proprietary software consultant to a leading figure of a global conspiracy theory. A big part it has to do with his personality. I've always been kind of eccentric anyway, so it wasn't a huge stretch, he says. For starters, Sargent has always been intrigued with explosive ideas, some of them rather literal. He was kicked out of Western Washington University for making his own fireworks, and prior to his interest in a flat Earth, he investigated and believes in a host of other conspiracy theories. JFK wasn't shot by a lone gunman, the moon landing was faked, Pearl Harbor and the September 11th attacks were orchestrated by the government, etc. Flat Earth he called the last book on the shelf, the one even he didn't want to read. He says he was as skeptical as anyone, and actually set out to disprove the conspiracy. He understands the frustration and sometimes anger people respond with when he talks about his conclusions. I was one of you, he said. His youth could be described as normal. Born and raised on the South End, he grew up in a Christian household. His mother was a South Whidbey school teacher for over 30 years, and his father, worked for Whidbey Telecom. Sargent was an A and B student, was his class president, and served as president of his chapter of the Future Business Leaders of America. He went to state with his basketball team, and in January 1995 was featured in the record as the digital pinball champion of the world. Later, he got into video game testing, something he did as a career before moving on to the software industry. So why did he give it up to promote a theory the vast majority of people find ridiculous? To live a life that often leads to public mockery and trial? Like those in the Matrix movie series, most flat earthers have always felt something about the world wasn't quite right, Sargent said. It may seem counterintuitive, but joining the club often comes as a relief because they can finally identify with other like-minded people. For the first time, they're not different and no longer alone. It also provides answers to perhaps mankind's greatest question of all, one pondered for millennia. Why are we here? I'm not going to lie to you. There's religious overtones here, Sargent says. If it's not God, it's the closest thing we have to it, he says. For many believers, that belief alone makes the ridicule that comes with the theory worth it. The angle of the Denver Post story focused on that aspect of the flat earth movement. Sargent says it hasn't been as difficult for him as others. He hasn't lost any friends, but admits most of those he associates with today are those who share his beliefs. That includes his love life. He no longer dates non-believers. And family is a mix. His sister, who lives and works in the South End, couldn't be reached Friday morning for comment, but isn't a member. Some are open supporters and believers. Others keep it quiet from spouses. And then there's Mom. While she was shocked when he first broke the news, she said, "You joined what?" It was hardly a surprise. He's really been an out-of-the-box kind of kid, Patty Sargent said. Who wins a pinball championship? And we had an unbelievable fireworks shows. She also complained about the attention from her son's fans. He regularly receives gifts, everything from flat earth models to a massive coffee table that weighs a ton. Shirts, he gets them in the mail so often that he jokes he'll never have to buy a t-shirt again. Sargent no longer works a conventional job, working solely on his flat earth efforts. He lives off royalties, and though declined to say exactly how much, said it was under $30,000 a year. But Patty Sargent has also been supportive, increasingly supportive. In fact, she's become a believer as well, though she admitted she was a bit apprehensive about it. Coming out publicly, her son's theories aren't common knowledge on South Whidbey, and she cringed to think what her teacher friends would say. But she mustered up her courage and revealed more. Turns out she has a vein of skepticism herself, a rather large one. Do I think we've landed on the moon? She asked. I've never believed that. The two laughed together about how the knowledge might be received in their longtime community. This will be my opus or my tragedy, one or the other, Mark Sargent said. And you're going to take your mother down with you, she said. Thanks for listening. You can research more on the South Whidbey record with the link below. It's important that we back up what we talk about, and this is researched from a newspaper article that by and large shows historical connections all the way back to his childhood, so it should be considered as a strong source, and also it leads to materials behind this source that can be traced, involving where he went to school and previous articles and accomplishments that he's done that were apparently publicized here. I wish you luck on your search for the truth. Keep it flat. Thank you.